welcome our panelists. We are going to have a panel discussion now to conclude the day with. It's again on quantum chemistry and computing talks in advanced quantum algorithms for chemistry. Today is concentrating more on quantum chemistry. So we have Dr. Sharkey and Alain Chancé. Welcome to the Spring School of Cairo University on quantum computing. Are they both available with us?
Yes,
now we have
here.
Okay. Okay, great.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes.
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 Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Okay,
yeah.
good. Thank you.
Dr. Dr. Sharkey is a quantum chemist, author and CEO of ODE L3C. She chairs the IEEE effort on quantum cybersecurity framework and was named one of the 40 under 40 in cybersecurity. Her work focuses on high accuracy molecular simulation and the ethical applications of quantum technology. Dr. Chancé, Alain Chancé, has been with us, introduced before, but let me make a quick introduction again. He's the president and co-founder of MolKet. He contributes from the intersection of quantum computing, algorithmic design, and hands-on community engagement through Qiskit and industry collaboration. Together they have shaped the second edition of quantum chemistry and computing for the period. That's a very important book. It is a book that aims not only to teach, but also to clarify, demystify, and modernize how we approach quantum chemistry in the era of hybrid and noisy quantum hardware. Let's welcome our guests. And Dr. Shaha, if you'd like to take the lead asking the first question.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Ahmed, and welcome with our panelists, Dr. Sharkey and Alain Chancé. Of course, my question now to Keeper. Some people believe that most of quantum chemistry algorithms have been already discovered or developed, and that any additional work is merely about optimization. So that's a common belief now. However, a groundbreaking research has proven that is not the case. You have completed your PhD on a very compelling topic, quantum mechanical non-relativistic spectra calculations of small atoms and molecules, employing all particle explicitly correlated Gaussian basis functions. And of course, you have built an impressive record in quantum chemistry and in the field in general. So my question to you is, what drew you to quantum chemistry, and what have you accomplished so far, and what's your aspiration for the future of chemistry and the quantum computing in general?
Sure, Taha, thank you so much for having me today, and Ahmed. It's great to be here with everybody. And, you know, what inspired me to get into quantum chemistry is that, you know, the nature of everything around us, really. You know, looking at the periodic table of the elements, looking at chemicals, chemical reactions, and you know, realizing that there was something fundamental to understand there. When I became, you know, in college, I realized that it was more than just understanding how to mix things together and, you know, what was happening at the lab bench, that you needed to understand the mathematics what was going on in the quantum mechanics. So I became a double major in math and chemistry, and I realized that the quantum mechanics was really nothing more than a set of postulates based on mathematical formulation that describes the nature of particles. And once I realized what the mathematics was actually doing, it became very inherent to me how to move forward with, you know, algorithm development. And the current approximations that are historical in, you know, quantum chemistry, broadly speaking, mainly the Born-Oppenheimer approximation, was one that I felt was hindering our knowledge on what quantum mechanics really is and what is actually happening with chemistry. And it actually plays into the Heisenberg uncertainty principle that you guys were just discussing a moment ago. So, you know, what is the Born-Oppenheimer approximation? Basically, what that is saying that nuclei are classical particles and that they operate like regular balls rolling down a hill, and then electrons are quantum particles, but somehow we optimize these quantum electrons around classical nuclei. And that's just simply not the case, okay? Now, going back to the Heisenberg uncertainty principle that you were just discussing, what exactly is a point? When we talk about a point particle, how small is that point? Is it infinitely small or infinitely big, right? So the Heisenberg uncertainty principle is basically saying the more we know exactly where a particle is in space, the less we know about the momentum, okay? Which means we don't understand the wave function, right? So these are the kinds of concepts that we have to be able to sort of demystify in our historical thinking throughout the last 100 years so that we can improve the algorithms behind quantum mechanics and quantum chemistry so that we can understand effects that we frankly don't know anything about. So when I was teaching, you know, high school chemistry, and when I was taking high school chemistry, I realized there was no good textbook for understanding what quantum mechanics was or quantum chemistry. And so that's what led Alain and I to write the book together, Quantum Chemistry and Computing for the Curious. And it took us about 6 months to write. It was published in 2022. And so we have been working on the second edition recently. And, you know, so I hope that answers your question, Taha, of, you know, kind of what got me into quantum chemistry and why I felt like it was really important to write the book, to get, you know, young minds involved so that they can understand really what quantum mechanics is.
Yeah, thanks, Keeper. It's very interesting indeed to see the inspiration and also the enthusiasm about spreading the knowledge in a very simple way, especially to make it accessible to students and researchers. The book is really important, and a lot of people have talked about it. So now for you, Dr. Ahmed, to take the lead on the second question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Taha. Actually, my question this time would be to Alain. And it's sort of a repercussion of the question that I keep asking, because it's really a hurdle that is facing me in my attempt to transit to building up some business in the quantum computing world. Well, let's agree that some, or actually many, believe that quantum computing is only for academics and researchers. And I excuse them for this belief. Yet in your special case, you transition to quantum computing from a background in engineering and consulting. And you actually built an impressive career in both worlds, produced remarkable work. So what was your professional life like before and after quantum computing? What drew you to quantum computing? What projects have you been working on? What you do for now, what you aspire to do in the future? If you take us through this journey quickly, we would really be happy to listen to your story.
Oh, my pleasure. Before getting into quantum, I actually came from a very different world. I started just after I got my degree from École des Mines of Saint-Étienne in France. I started by doing my military service as an intern at the French Atomic Energy Authority, the CEA, in Pierre-Latte, which is south of France. And I did what? I did chemical engineering research on the French way of enriching uranium with a chemical engineering process. Okay, so I did actually some research. Okay, at the very beginning. So that was my first also real exposure to scientific computing. And then I moved from France to Cairo Research in the United Kingdom, and I joined an Anglo-American team. I was the only Frenchman in an Anglo-American team, right? And I worked on the so-called Superlink Superlink MVS, which was about connecting Cray supercomputers. Cray, Seymour Cray, founder of the company, and the name is also well known in the HPC world. So connecting those Cray supercomputers to IBM mainframes. So it was already distributed computing, in other words, right? And that experience shaped how I think about computation at scale, right? Then after that, for the next several decades, I changed from the scientific and working as a software engineer within a computer manufacturer to consulting, and I joined Accenture. I stayed there for a number of years, being promoted to a manager level, but technical manager, because folks recognized that I was not only good at managing, but I was also, I knew about the software development lifecycle and all that stuff. To make it simple, at the end of my career as a consultant, I also joined Infosys, again in the United Kingdom, Infosys Management Consulting Services. And in a nutshell, the common denominator to my professional life as a consultant was working around data management, master data management, data governance, that leads to big data and AI, and basically for very, very, very large enterprise transformation projects. When I mean is, several hundred people working together over several years, okay? Then I had this opportunity. In 2018, I attended the ID Quantique, which is one of the pioneers in quantum key distribution, based in Switzerland. ID Quantique, the 10th winter school in Les Diablerets, Switzerland. It's a ski resort. And there I met, among others, Gilles Brassard, Charles Henry Bennett, the co-founders of the BB84 protocol, which bears their name, B for Brassard, B for Bennett. I did some cross-country skiing with both of them and a bunch of other top physicists. And yeah, I mean, I've got the evidence. There is a picture of me and Gilles Brassard, which I left on the folder if you want to share that. And so that was one step in the quantum world via quantum cryptography. And around 2018, I started interviewing thought leaders in quantum physics, chemistry, and computing. And there are two conversations that really changed my trajectory. One with Peter Vitek, who unfortunately lost his life in an avalanche at the end of 2019. I interviewed him, and I also attended one of his course on quantum machine learning. And the other, the other person who I met, and it was an interview as well, was Dr. Alain Sharkey, obviously. And that was the beginning of a fruitful collaboration, which lasted, which is still ongoing, as Kipper said. We're working on the second edition of our book, so quite amazing, really. Given the distance, because we live so widely apart in time and space. I mean, now like 7 or 8 hours difference between the two of us, and in terms of geography, it's thousands of miles. So we collaborated via Skype, basically, to produce the book, right? And since then, well, I've co-founded MolKet with Taha, whom I met in I think July 2022 during a IBM-sponsored Qiskit summer school. Yeah, and so we co-founded MolKet. And I've been very active in the IBM Qiskit community. For instance, late last year and early this year, I've been co-mentor with Professor David Tuliu, who is based in United States, and Nikhila Yeturi, who is a mentee. We commented a very interesting project. So it's QAMP, Qiskit Advocate Mentorship Program. And the topic is energy-aware quantum HPC co-design with sample-based quantum diagonalization. so SQD. So and this is a topic for which we have submitted just a few days ago a paper to be for the IEEE Quantum Week. Okay, and so what drives me today is very simple. Actually, it's making quantum computing accessible to engineers. Well, I'm an executive engineer, so that's my turf. Students and industry practitioners. Okay, that's my in a nutshell. I transform dream into reality because I'm an engineer. I like to get hold of the latest, greatest ideas from theorists, and then I enjoy testing that, experimenting, and trying to see if it flies or not, and making things work. And so the idea is, and that's the purpose also of MolKet, my collaboration with Taha, is to develop practical, resource-efficient algorithms. So it's not just performance, speed. It's also, hey, if we could reduce the energy consumption, that would be great. And to accelerate chemistry, material science, energy research. But I've also been active in the quantum cryptography arena. I've published, I think my only peer-reviewed paper is quantum permutation pad with Qiskit runtime. Okay, and so my goal is to help move quantum from promise to real-world impact. That's it. Thank you.
Well, very interesting, very inspiring indeed. I'm particularly very interested in the area of energy-aware computing. I did some work on that a few years ago, and I had a good student who actually did a good master degree on experimenting with coding styles and the effect of different coding styles on energy consumption in computing systems. I didn't actually continue that because mainly because not too many students are interested in this area, especially that in Egypt, the disciplines are sort of isolated. So an area like that requires somebody who is interested in computing, engineering, and physics at the same time, and those are difficult to combine in Egypt. Dr. Taha knows that. But I will ask you about that in the future. Maybe I can return to this area by proposing something to work together on that. But really, very interesting and very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Taha?
Yeah, so yeah, thanks, Alain, thanks, Keeper. And this brings me to the book that you ended up in shortly in the previous answer. Both of you worked, and also you are working now on the second edition of the book. So when the book came, when the first edition came, it was one of the earliest to show how to do quantum chemistry with quantum computing. So that's one of the earliest. So the field just boomed after 2017, and of course there were not much of algorithms available at that time. So my question now is directed to Keeper. What promoted the decision to write the second edition to quantum chemistry and computing for the curious?
Well, the first edition was completed and published in 2022, and we had a great time promoting that book and, handing it out to, kids in middle school clubs and high school and early college. And we really got a lot of traction in that domain for early education. And after a couple of years, to my surprise, the book was named as one of the top 10 chemistry books by Book Authority. And that was such an honor for me because, writing the book was something I had wanted to do since I was in high school. And then when I taught high school chemistry, it became more relevant and important for me to actually do something like that. So it was a huge goal for me. And it had been something that I had thought about for more than 20 years. So to make that list by Book Authority was such a huge accomplishment. And in the 3 or 4 years that the book had been published, we had seen a lot of shifts and transitions in the industry, from new Qiskit architectures to noise-aware quantum workflows, quantum machine learning, and new algorithms that are beyond variational quantum eigensolver. So that really inspired the second edition, and the publisher basically said, hey, look, you know, we have an opportunity with the momentum from the first edition to sort of do an update, write a couple more chapters, and make sure that we can, you know, continue to be at the forefront of the change and the education that we have. So I said, sure, let's go for it. Let's do the second edition. And you know, I think that it's been a lot of fun working with Alain. He's such a wonderful collaborator, and you know, the way we work is very collaborative. You know, so we come up with the ideas, discuss them, and you know, I do a lot of the writing of the actual language on the page, and Alain helps me with the code, and we kind of go back and forth and discuss, does this actually get the point across? And I think that that collaboration in the education is really important because it helps other people actually see what it is that we're trying to teach, you know. And it's just so fun to be able to see the fruits of the labor come to fruition. And I'm so excited to have the second edition be published, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
Okay, that's a really great news. Congratulations in advance about
Thank you.
this nice achievement. And now I can ask Alain, then what will be the intended audience? This is the typical question. What's now will be the scope of the audience for the second edition?
Well, it's very much the same as the first edition, i.e. Professionals interested in chemistry and computer science at the early stages of learning. That's really the value of the book. It's for the curious. So it could be experts in quantum chemistry who are new to computer science or conversely, okay, and but also students, anyone who is interested in or exploring the opportunity to move to quantum computational chemistry or quantum computing. And so it could start from advanced high school. I know there are folks from high school who attend the IBM-sponsored Qiskit hackathons. So yes, they are welcome. And college students as well as I would say, okay, I'm 68 years of age, and so it's never too late to learn. So there could be folks who are at the end of their professional career and they enjoy making a move. So this kind of book, our book, hopefully will help them make this transition.
Yeah, so that's really great to hear. And now my question to Keeper, what are the major additions or upgrades in this edition?
Yeah, so in addition to the regular chapters that we have, we added just a little bit of content to some of the chapters that were already there in the first edition. But the biggest changes were that we added 3 new chapters, okay? The first is about noise-aware quantum chemistry because real devices are noisy, and that requires fundamentally how we change the algorithms and how they behave. So we kind of take a deep dive into that, and not too deep of a dive, just enough for the curious, right? Because it is, you know, a book for the curious. So we have to make sure that we balance all of the concepts. The second is that we introduce quantum machine learning for molecular prediction. Which is a very different way of thinking. It's not solving a Schrödinger equation directly, but learning the patterns in the chemical space. So we go into that, and I don't want to give all the secrets away. So I'm going to be very careful not to tell too much of my story. And then third, we expand into advanced algorithms beyond VQE, like QPE, QITE, and sampling-based methods, which are really scalable, and it's starting to emerge. So those are some of the things to look forward to and learning in detail. And of course, what's really nice is the book actually comes with a complete set of Jupyter notebooks. So you can actually run all of the algorithms, and you can go in and modify the code and run your own experiments.
Yeah, that's really great and wonderful news, and I think that's a very great addition. I think now the audience had their own flavors about the secret recipe, and they smelled the nice, interesting spices, so they will be curious about the book when it is officially launched. Now, for the following question, yeah, Dr. Ahmed, please, to take the lead.
I got very interested. I haven't seen the book, but without revealing any secret, Dr. Keeper, what does quantum machine learning offer for molecular prediction?
So quantum machine learning lets us encode molecules into quantum states, and it learns patterns in the space that's fundamentally different from classical features. Like I was saying before, when you have the the Born-Oppenheimer approximation that's baked into most of the methods, what you have are classical nuclei and quantum electrons. And when you treat classical nuclei, they don't, in the models, they don't actually follow quantum mechanics. And so that's one of the issues that the current or classical quantum chemistry models has. So these new models are actually trying to, go beyond these kinds of approximations. So in chemistry, we're often limited to, by how we represent the molecules, right? So what are the descriptors, the fingerprints, of course, the approximations. And the quantum models give us a way to build representations directly from quantum states, which can capture correlations that are hard to express classically. Okay, also mathematically, writing out the mathematics is not necessarily an easy task, especially by hand. And you can look at all of my Google Scholar publications that are peer reviewed. You can see all the math that I put into those publications, and I had to do all of that by hand. So there was no software or tool that was going to be able to help me do those derivations. And I can tell you that I wrote pages and pages and pages of mathematics to be able to get those algorithms, the kinetic energy, the potential energy, the overlap, right? So yeah, and I have carpal tunnel sometimes when I think back to like how all the math that I've had to write by paper. And you can find some of those images of the math that I've done on the web when you look at that, if you can Google it. So anyways, it's not about replacing classical machine learning, but it's about extending it into the quantum realm. So in some regimes, especially with limited data or highly correlated system, quantum models may offer more expressive representation than fewer samples. So in other words, if you have a highly correlated system, especially metallic systems like titanium oxides or vanadium, that transition metals, and you want to model these systems, they're highly correlated because those nuclei are actually going to create a very strong quantum information. And so being able to describe that highly accurately with quantum mechanics and a quantum computer is actually highly relevant, especially going beyond the standard approximations.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, you have done a great job selling this book. I will be looking for it. Now, my next question is to Alain. Having said all that, and given the hardware we expect in a few years from now, do you anticipate any useful quantum advantage in quantum chemistry beyond the research and publishing world, something of real value for applications and for the industry?
Oh, thank you for this $1 million question. It's a hotly debated topic, and yes, loud yes. So I will give just one example, which leads me to believe that this will happen in the coming 3 to 5 years. It's a very recent publication. Algorithmic, a company, has won the Q4Bio competition, and they achieved that with a hybrid quantum classical tensor network method. It's not SQD. And the way they have done their work is the I would say the template, the benchmark, because they have it's end-to-end pipeline, and they have made sure that there is a fair comparison with the best classical competitor, the best, and also that it could run on real noisy hardware, and currently it's with IBM hardware, and they managed to demonstrate that yes, there is evidence of an advantage. So it's not quantum versus classical, it's classical plus quantum versus the best classical. Okay, so those who try and get who is going to win, is it classical or quantum? It's the wrong question, guys. It's both. Okay, will be integrated. But so this is I won't go into details. There is a perspective paper for details. Algorithmics Q4 bio perspective, and I would say this is also shows that this is hard. It's very hard to demonstrate any such advantage. It requires also tight integration of people, of synergy of expertise. It's really the combination of algorithmic, Cleveland Clinic, IBM, and years of hard work to actually demonstrate that. So the answer is yes, but of course, what will happen in the coming years is that there will be valid claims, but then the competition, the classical world, will have a counterclaim and outperform this. So for a number of years, it will be an interesting competition. But I would say also, given my age, I hope that this will happen in the next 5 years and it will not take decades, because I would like to see that during my lifetime. So that's my answer.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Taha.
Yeah, so now we come, we have seen now so far indeed the book and the computational advantage that's expected in chemistry. And indeed, chemistry is a very promising science. It's one of the foundation sciences. And indeed, the CEO of NVIDIA said that, okay, the AI will take the lead in the future, and students or experts with very strong domain knowledge, they will be the one that to last in the market, and they will not be taken by AI so easily. So now my question to Dr. Keeper, and then I'm gonna get the insights from Alain after. We are now in the era where the AI is dominant and powerful, and they can do most of the programming tasks. So that's indeed very proven with the AI agents and so on. How can we redesign quantum computing and quantum chemistry education to build a workforce that offers a deep expertise and indeed creative problem solving beyond what AI can offer and automate?
Well, this is a very important question, Taha. You know, first, there are some misconceptions when it comes to AI and what are the models that AI actually uses. When it comes to syntax and language, AI is actually very good at doing syntax and language. And that's based on the Bayesian theorem. The Bayesian theorem is actually classical probability. And so it learns language and syntax based on examples. And so what you have is a bunch of examples from all our written text, all our written code, as much as it can learn. And so when it generates new things, it's generating based off of old information. Okay. And the probability of it actually coming up with something new is very, very low. So you have to be able to sort of guide the AI per se, right? So this is like the chat GPTs and the Geminis and things. So when you're having a conversation with AI and you're getting it to write you a code per se, it's really good at taking what it is that you want to do and translating that into something that it has seen before. And really, it's not in doing anything new or different. It's just kind of bridging the gap on what it already knows, right? Now, I have firsthand experience with this because I have, ideas on how I want to push theory forward, and I argue all the time with AI, and I say, no, but I want to do it this way. This is new physics. This is a new idea. And it just says, look, I have learned it this way. It will argue with me. It will just argue its way into what it already knows and says that, no, you're wrong because I already learned all of this and I want to do it this way. And I will go back and forth and back and forth. And so I've gotten really good at actually using the different AI tools to have a conversation with themselves, right? So I will go in and say, okay, ChatGPT, this is what I want to do. Gemini, this is what I want to do. Grok, this is what I want to do. Have them all produce an output, and then I take those outputs and I feed them into each other, and I say, Grok, what do you think about ChatGPT over here? What do you think about their answer for this problem? And it will just talk about why it's wrong or why it was good, and so then I can kind of narrow down the different things that they're thinking about, what they've learned on information. And so I don't think AI is actually going to replace human thinking and the creativity. I just don't think that it has the capability of being conscious in that way. Not at least yet, okay? So I'm not going to say that we won't ever get there, but quantum consciousness is one aspect of the field of quantum information science that I think we have to still understand. And it's one of the focuses I'm working on right now, is understanding what makes us quantumly conscious, right? What are the processes in our brain that actually leverage quantum mechanics that help us understand our reality and our universe, right? So those are the kinds of things that I think about when it comes to using AI. But it definitely is a learning tool, so we can get kids to understand what are these tools that are already being there. They don't have to really know all of the ins and outs of the algorithm. They can take a chat and say, hey, look, I want to model, I don't know, sugar, right? Glucose. What is glucose doing, right? So they can create a code and model a glucose molecule, easy peasy, right, nowadays. So that's not really the issue, but doing it in a way that's like accurate and getting new information would be the issue. So I hope that answers your question about AI and maybe the forefront of where AI could actually take us if it becomes consciously aware in its predictions.
So thanks very much, Keeper. I think that answered the question and opened many, many other questions indeed, especially on the intelligence and the definition of intelligence, and whether, can we call LLMs in their current format and the current structure thinkable objects or thinking objects. That's indeed for future questions potentially in this session. So now I come to Alain. What's your intake on this? How do you think? Do you think that AI can beat the human creativity, or what will be the future of quantum chemistry in the era of AI, which can provide automation and indeed workflows that can ease the work of research in general?
So I agree with Keeper that with the large language models, I don't see how we could have creativity. But there are other forms of AI. Yann LeCun, for example, the Frenchman, Yann LeCun, is pushing for another flavor of AI, which might be more promising. And I would say it's open. But what could be really fascinating is the combination of quantum sensing plus quantum computing, and in the shape and form of AI agents combined with robotics. Now that might give. There is a very interesting paper which just came out just a few weeks ago by Presqu'île and Robert, and basically. There is an advantage which has been proven mathematically rigorously with quantum learning as compared to classical. So if we bake in, if we enable the artificial intelligence to leverage this advantage of gaining information, quantum information, then who knows what they could do. I think we are maybe lucky to have a few years ahead to think about it and to provide a framework for that, because who knows. Of course, there is Roger Penrose's Emperor's Mind book, which postulates that the consciousness is of quantum physics nature, and there is some evidence of that. So I think this is where quantum chemistry applied to the way the neurons work. And so what's fascinating is that there are quantum physics phenomenon which happen at macroscopic scale. And I think this is a very interesting domain, which is worth studying. I'd say We live in an incredible time. In 3 to 5 years, we'll see things which we could not have imagined will happen. So that's my take on this very interesting question.
Yeah, thanks, Alain. And yeah, perhaps now, the floor is for Dr. Ahmed.
Well, I'm actually intrigued by this discussion to the point that I'm out of reasonable questions. If I ask any question now, I think we will engage in a discussion for the next couple of months, not couple of hours. So I would leave the floor for the audience in case someone has a question to our experts to elaborate on. If not, then I would better conclude the session with Dr. Taha if he has no more questions to ask, and hopefully continue this very interesting discussion in another chance.
So perhaps we can end up with a definition of intelligence now from how we define intelligence. Indeed, it's a very interesting thing because it could be human, it could be artificial, and maybe we can take the intake of the insights of Dr. Keeper and Alain about the definition, and we end up with your definitions, and we conclude the session. So, Dr. Keeper, what do you think about intelligence? If someone mentioned intelligence, do you think it's human? Can the machine think? Even if they got access to quantum data and now with more powerful quantum systems, what's your perspective on intelligence objects?
Yeah, so let's just, focus on, the way the brain, works for a moment. You have these, microtubules in the brain that, pass information around. That information is quantum mechanical in nature, so it's going to have a wave function. There's going to be superposition and entanglement of that information in these, brain synapses. But then there's also sort of a global understanding where the brain actually has, like these gamma rays, right? The wave functions that go across the brain. So you have to be able to take these small wave functions in individual synapses and also have global information, right? So, and understanding how does that wave actually really behave mathematically is one aspect of intelligence. So, and I think that also comes back to, how a quantum computer is actually going to behave. So we have the idea of the qubit. And, we want to entangle qubits. And of course, there's the superposition of states between the qubits, right? But we want to grow in the number of qubits and how many qubits we actually have, right? So, we talk about not only moving beyond noisy scale intermediate devices to fault tolerant devices, but also how many qubits do we have? Do we need 1 million qubits to have something that's computationally relevant? And we're going to have to solve the problem of what does it mean to have global communication across that system, right? Not just individual qubits communicating with one another, so much like the brain. And I think that global communication of quantum information is something that we still have yet to understand on a bigger scale. And I think that that's where the real intelligence is going to emerge from.
Yeah, thanks. That's really well said. Perfect. Yeah, thanks. And Alain, what's your perspective?
I think I envision that in not so distant future, we'll have devices like a headband that will actually leverage quantum sensing, and so there will be AI that will be able to directly read somehow our minds, because of the sensing of very sensitive quantum sensing, and maybe then so in other words, I anticipate that AI will harmoniously combine with human intelligence in a way that will be unique for each individual, and maybe also the training of the AI system will be unique. So we'll have an AI assistant with us instead of having to type him a prompt and ask ChatGPT or so. We will just have to think about something, and then there will be a little voice in our head, artificial, and we'll say, hey, okay. So and that's the kind of thing which I think we can envision because the technologies are already available, and it's just the creativity of the mankind to think of new ways of. So I think of a AI enhanced human, so that could solve the debate of whether we should fear AI would replace us. No, AI will be integrated into the humans. That's my hope. Okay, that's my answer.
Yeah, thanks, Alain. That's also a very nice input. Dr. Ahmed.
Actually, this is a very difficult question for me because, I studied and majored in some humanities and arts as well as science and engineering. And when I was studying music and humanities, I learned that in psychology, the human intelligence is not defined. We do not know what the human intelligence is. Consequently, if you try to mimic something that you don't know to start with, you have to make some assumptions before you do that to measure your success. So this is really very difficult. So you may define the human intelligence as ability to learn, comprehend, extrapolate, conclude. There are too many things, and it differs. For example, when you have like a genius in visual art versus a genius in music versus a genius in mathematics versus a genius in sports. Can we claim that Michael Jordan, for example, or Muhammad Ali were not genius just because they cannot solve equations or cannot come up with postulates like Einstein? They are genius in their own way, and Einstein, who cannot punch anyone and cannot aim the basketball at the basket in any way, is still a genius because of what he was able to do. On the other hand, when you come to chemistry, Marie Curie was a genius to combine so many skills and things, but she still could not do things that Einstein or Muhammad Ali or Michael Jordan or Renoir or Monet could do. So the definition to start with is very difficult. So this is really a reason I cannot collaborate on that.
Well, I would say that you're very right about, individual intelligence. I think that also has to do with, the way each person has their own individual composition, but also what it is that you're interested in and you practice, right? So, I think that this comes down to an optimization problem within our own body, right? So what do you spend your time doing? You're going to become good at something. I mean, everybody's the best at something, right? Everybody has their own unique best characteristics. So I think that just comes down to the individual and what makes us all unique. But I don't think that there is an intelligence that says, if you have this form of intelligence, you are going to be a master at music, or you're going to be a master at mathematics. I think that it all functions the same way. It's just a matter of how that function actually is optimized within the body. So I think that there's some questions in the chat.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, Mina is asking Dr. Sharkey, in your opinion, to what extent quantum computing will change personalized drug production and medical sciences in general? Do you think that quantum computing and technologies will be the go-to technology when enterprises want to explore personalized drugs and materials?
I think that personalized drugs are going to come down to the particular disease that it is that you're looking at. And so understanding diseases is the most important thing to understand. But when it comes to the function of the body, most of our bodies function the same way. So I don't think that there's going to be too much need for personalized drugs. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, so it's very difficult for me to actually comment on that particular aspect of everything. And in pharmaceuticals, the industry is actually very they look at the top down of the pyramid. So if you think of like quantum chemistry and very highly accurate states of matter at the bottom of the pyramid, the top of the pyramid is of all of the chemical information like melting point and boiling point and all of these other chemical properties that you're going to be looking at. And they sort of like look at properties, and they use AI to filter through hundreds of thousands of different kinds of molecules and all of the data and the Merck index and all of this information to sort of whittle it down. And then they get midway through the pyramid, and that's where they stop. And then they have a certain set of molecules that they're going to look at and then test those at the lab bench before they go into production, right? But they never really get down to modeling chemicals at the molecular level for new drug discovery per se. Now, how does quantum computing actually help us with this? Well, when you have a very, 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 very large data set, it can actually help us process that data more potentially, right? If you have the scalability, right, and number of qubits and a lot of these different things. And this is something that's being done by like Microsoft and other large corporations. So yeah, I think it will help, but it just depends on where the personalized drugs are actually taking us. Now, can we be using quantum sensing in the body for biochemistry and understanding how cells are working? Absolutely. So I think that that's a different area, and that's not necessarily pharmaceuticals and personalized medicine, but that's going to be understanding how the biology is actually working at the quantum level by using quantum sensing. And that's a whole another area of information that we still have yet to understand. So I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Do we have any other questions? Roger actually reminded us of Descartes. I doubt, therefore I think, therefore I am. True, very true. So do we have any other questions from the audience?
So yeah, I think consciousness is interactive, isn't it? So and we have skin in the game. So I'm not really sure that a computer has the drives that we have, or the way to. I kind of think that a lot of human behavior is driven by drives, and we can kind of visualize ourselves sitting in a happy place, eating a fish or whatever, and that is like part of the Hamiltonian that we reach, and then we figure out all the states to get there. I think that survival as a caveman is a quantum problem. You have to do a lot of different things all of the time to survive. So I think that, actually this kind of like whole dichotomy of classical versus quantum, we are actually quantum. We think like quantum machines. We were just taught, actually Descartes, has a lot to do with it. He taught us to be reductionist, and now we believe in classical computing. But really, as a caveman, I think our brain was solving quantum problems like navigation and location and mapping and opportunistic things and time, how to allocate your time as a caveman. You have to spend it in lots of different states and lots of probabilities. Well, how do you evaluate probabilities? If you have a quantum brain, it helps.
Well, sorry. Right, exactly. I mean, our brain, we process light through our eyes, which is quantum mechanics. The light is fundamentally quantum. We have ears that process noise waves, which of course those are waves. Those are fundamentally quantum in nature, right? Wave mechanics. And then we have smell, right? That's processing chemistry. And Richard Feynman has a really good poem. He talks about how trees actually, can't remember all of the details, but he says that trees actually like heal you because you're actually integrating, like, so you don't actually ever touch anything. So like here I am, I'm holding the book, Quantum Chemistry and Computing for the Curious, right? But am I actually touching it, right? Do my fingers actually ever feel the book pages, right? Okay. But when it comes to actually interacting with molecules, yes, we have reactions in our nose where we smell the chemistry. One of my favorite reactions is taking salicylic acid, which is aspirin, and turning it into oil of wintergreen, which is common in most wintergreen like gums and flavors to flavor the mouth, right? And so we also have the tongue, which senses chemistry, and so we can taste things, right? So we are quantum in nature just from our senses. And so, but when it comes to probabilities, yes, I think that whenever I go into a situation, I always think about the different outcomes that could be happening, right? So suppose I really want to get an A on the exam, right? But I know that there's a chance that I'm going to bomb one of these questions and I could actually get a C. What am I going to do to influence the outcome, right? So I spend time studying, I spend time understanding the questions that I could possibly be asked. And so you can take this example into your everyday life. You're driving down the road. What are you going to do to make sure you don't get into an accident? And so there's all these various ways of manipulating the probability space around you to, enhance your interaction. But are those quantum probabilities or classical probabilities? I really am not sure that we understand the difference between our everyday life as being classical probability versus a quantum probability, right? And so your example of like, the cavemen, and they have to think, well, is there going to be a lion in the cave, and do I hunt it, or am I a Neanderthal that is really scary and big and can win the fight? I mean, I don't know. So there's a lot to human intelligence, right? And the way we've evolved over time, but that's a whole other discussion.
And that's if I take from that, because the point that Dr. Keeper mentioned about, for example, the similarity or the thinking of similarity between quantum and the classical, it also applies to the superposition. There is still believes that the superposition in classical you add two things and then you can sum them. Two waves can interfere together, then you see the effect. However, in quantum, that's only two possible situations, and then when we measure, we only find one. So the superposition, the definition of the superposition in quantum differs, and similarly for the probabilities and so on. So maybe that could be saved for a future discussion to highlight and dive deep into these nice topics.
Well, thank you, Teha, for having me, and it's nice to be here today.
Yeah, it's really great to have you, and that with all of these nice insights and the questions and the deep thinking about even the philosophy of physics. That's always nice to hear all the time.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it very much. I don't want it to end, but I think we have to save some energy for tomorrow and after tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for this insightful, very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.